but to listen to him. To honor his story. To bring him home. But even then, Onoda refused to surrender. Not without orders from his commanding officer. That officer had long since returned to civilian life. But the Japanese government tracked him down, now an elderly bookseller, and flew him to Lubang Island. Standing face to face with his former superior, Hiroo Onoda finally accepted the truth. The war had ended. He removed his uniform, polished his sword, and after 29 years in hiding, saluted the rising sun one final time. He returned to Japan as a national hero, celebrated by some, questioned by others, revered by all who heard his unbelievable story. Onoda's tale is not just about war. It's about duty, belief, honor, and the power of a human being to endure beyond reason. In a world that often forgets the past, Hiroo Onoda reminds us what it means to truly never give up, even when the whole world moves on without you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story if it moved you, because the world needs to remember legends like Hiroo Onoda.
The Wild West wasn't built with rules. It was carved out of chaos, grit, and the promise of something better, even if it killed you. It began with a gun in one hand and a dream in the other. Millions moved west, chasing gold, land, or freedom. What they found was a land untamed, where the law came second to survival, and every sunrise might be your last. Outlaws roamed like wolves, armed, hunted, and unafraid. Jesse James wasn't born evil. He was made by war. As a teenager, he fought in brutal guerrilla units during the Civil War. Afterward, he led a gang that robbed banks, trains, and anything else that moved. Outlaws roamed like wolves. He wrote letters to newspapers justifying every heist. The people didn't see a criminal. They saw a modern Robin Hood. He was betrayed by his own gang, shot in the back of the head while adjusting a picture on the wall, by a man who wanted the reward money more than his loyalty. Billy the Kid was lightning in a human body. He danced between jail cells and gunfights, charming some and terrifying others. He spoke fluent Spanish, sang to children, and smiled before drawing on grown men. He once broke out of a two-story courthouse by killing both his guards and riding off on a stolen horse. His luck ran out in the dark. Sheriff Pat Garrett waited in the shadows and put a bullet through him before he even knew what hit him. He was 21, one kill for every year he lived. But legends weren't just born with bullets. Bass Reeves was a name history nearly buried. Born into slavery, he escaped, lived among native tribes, and taught himself to track like a ghost. He became the first black U.S. Marshal west of the Mississippi. He couldn't read, but he memorized over 3,000 warrants, and he brought them in alive or dead. They say he once arrested his own son for murder. Because out here, justice didn't care about blood. The women of the West were harder than the land they walked. Calamity Jane rode through fire and madness, drank with generals, and fought off Indian attacks with a rifle in one hand and a cigarette in the other. She never married Wild Bill Hickok, but she never stopped loving him. She asked to be buried beside him. She was. Stagecoach Mary broke noses and rules. She delivered mail through blizzards and bandit country. She drank whiskey, chewed cigars, and carried a shotgun under her skirts. When one man called her slow, she knocked out his teeth. The town cheered. Even Belle Starr, the bandit queen, rode with Jesse James and ruled a gang of her own. She wore velvet gowns to court and pistols to dinner. She was murdered on a dirt road, and to this day no one knows who pulled the trigger. And then there was love. The Wild West was brutal, but love still bloomed in saloons, train cars, and tents on the edge of nowhere. Gunfighters wrote poetry. Cowboys whispered dreams under starlit skies. One outlaw, Harry Alonzo Longabore, better known as the Sundance Kid, fell so deeply in love with a schoolteacher, he took her across the world to escape the law. They fled to South America. They died in a shootout in Bolivia. Together. Love didn't soften the West. It made the pain worth surviving. Towns like Deadwood, Tombstone, and Dodge City weren't just backdrops. They were pressure cookers. Lawmen like Wyatt Earp, Bat Masterson, and Wild Bill Hickok walked the tightrope between order and anarchy. The OK Corral shootout lasted just 30 seconds, but it turned into legend. 3 men killed, dozens of lives changed. That's the West. Blink, and your whole world changes. The California Gold Rush brought 300,000 people stampeding westward in search of fortune. Most left with nothing. Some died with gold in their pockets and a knife in their back. And yet, people kept coming. The Transcontinental Railroad stitched the continent together like a wound being sewn shut. But it was built on the backs of immigrants, Chinese workers, Irish laborers, freed slaves. Whole mountains were blasted apart. Towns appeared overnight. Where the train went, civilization followed. And with it, the end of the true Wild West. By 1890, the US Census declared the frontier closed. But the truth is, it never died. The West didn't vanish. It evolved. The grit, the rebellion, the romance, it still runs in American blood. In every underdog, every fighter, every wild heart that refuses to be tamed. The Wild West isn't gone. It's just waiting for the right kind of soul to ride again. If this stirred something in you, like the spirit of the frontier calling across time, smash that like button. Subscribe for more true legends, forgotten heroes, and raw, untamed history that Hollywood could never tell you. They don't teach this in school. They won't mention her in pirate movies. But the greatest pirate to ever live wasn't a man. Her name was Qing Shi. And she ruled the South China Sea with more power than most kings. Born in 1775 in Canton, she started life in a brothel. By the age of 32, she controlled the most feared pirate fleet in history. Her rise began when she married Zheng Yi, a feared pirate captain commanding the Red Flag Fleet. They ruled together for 6 years, conquering rival clans and expanding their influence. But when he died during a storm in 1807, chaos threatened to consume the empire they built. That's when Qing Shi took command. She didn't inherit the fleet, she secured it. By forging alliances, bribing key lieutenants, and marrying Zheng Yi's adopted son, she ensured full control. This wasn't luck. It was power politics, pirate style. She restructured the entire pirate confederation. 6 fleets, red, black, white, blue, yellow, and green, all answered to her. Each had its own admiral, but she commanded them all. She introduced one of the most brutal and effective pirate codes ever written. It enforced order where chaos once ruled. Under her, piracy became an organized business, efficient, ruthless, and terrifying. Her fleet grew to over 800 warships and 80,000 pirates. They attacked imperial convoys, seized merchant vessels, and collected protection money from entire coastal villages. She demanded tribute from major ports. If they refused, she destroyed their ships, burned their docks, and left no survivors. She defeated the Chinese Navy in open water, not once but several times. One legendary clash at the Pearl River Delta saw her fleet smash through a blockade of imperial warships, stealing their cannons and setting fire to their sails. The Qing government begged help from Portugal and Britain. Gunboats arrived. They failed. Qing Shi's tactics were unmatched. She used shallow draft ships to escape into coves where larger vessels couldn't follow. She faked retreats, then ambushed pursuing enemies. And she was a master of timing, striking during storms when defenders were weak. Her pirates once raided a salt monopoly warehouse, seizing the entire seasonal supply, then reselling it back to the government at a profit. She didn't just rob. She controlled markets. No one was safe. Fishermen, merchants, nobles, even tax collectors were forced to pay her tribute. She also expanded inland, controlling smuggling routes and punishing towns that resisted. Entire villages relocated to avoid her wrath. But her most surprising move wasn't violence. It was diplomacy. By 1810, the Qing dynasty was desperate. They offered her a full pardon, but she negotiated better. She walked into the Governor-General's palace with her top lieutenants unarmed. She demanded amnesty for her fleet, retention of their wealth, and official military jobs for her officers. She got it all. No execution. No prison. No betrayal. Just total victory. She retired with her fortune, opened a gambling house, and became a respected businesswoman. She raised a family. She lived until the age of 69, something nearly unheard of for pirates. She died peacefully. And history buried her under silence. But the facts remain. She commanded the largest pirate fleet ever recorded. She beat empires, outmaneuvered navies, and walked away untouched. Her name was Qing Shi. If you learned something new, hit like. Subscribe for more untold history. And share this to help bring her story to the world.
Before man, before cities, before even the first bird's song, Earth belonged to giants, a world lush with towering ferns, volcanic mountains, and endless swamps teeming with life that time forgot. The skies roared with the wings of pterosaurs, vast and alien, gliding through air thicker and richer than ours today. Beneath them, dense jungles pulsed with ancient sounds, chirps, hisses, bellows, from creatures no human would ever see. Among the trees walked the mighty triceratops, armor-plated and regal, grazing like armored cattle on primeval shrubs. Across the plains, herds of apatosaurus stretched like living towers, their necks rising above the canopy to feast on treetops no other creature could reach. But not all was peace in this lost world. Lurking in the shadows, velociraptors stalked their prey with chilling precision. Fast, cunning, coordinated. Every leaf rustle could mean death. Every breeze carried the scent of something ancient and hungry. And above them all, the undisputed king, Tyrannosaurus Rex, thundered through the land with jaws strong enough to crush bone and a gaze that froze everything in its path. Yet even he was not alone in the hunt. The oceans hid terrors of their own. Mosasaurus, the marine giant, waiting in prehistoric seas that shimmered with alien blues and bioluminescence. From desert cliffs to mist-choked valleys, Earth was a mosaic of untamed beauty and brutal survival. Giant insects buzzed through the air, wings like stained glass windows flashing under prehistoric sun. Enormous crocodilian ancestors lurked in the shallows, their eyes just above the waterline, motionless, until they weren't. The land itself was alive. Volcanoes rumbled like sleeping beasts, reshaping the world with every eruption. Ash blanketed entire forests, preserving the bones of those who once ruled. Every footprint left behind was a story, one of survival, of instinct, of evolution in its rawest form. This wasn't just a time of monsters, it was nature's boldest experiment, each creature perfectly engineered for its moment in time, battling extinction with every breath. Tiny Compsognathus darted between roots, scavengers with sharp eyes and sharper teeth, while high above, Quetzalcoatlus, with a wingspan wider than a fighter jet, soared between prehistoric thermals. Forests glowed with flora long extinct, cycads, ginkgos, horsetails taller than men. The air was thick with moisture, pollen, and the constant noise of life in motion. Massive Stegosaurus lumbered across hot plateaus, their spiked tails ready for war. Even the night brought fear, the calls of nocturnal predators echoing through the dark. Some dinosaurs were armored like tanks, like the Ankylosaurus, dragging its clubbed tail like a mace. Others were built for speed, like the Gallimimus, racing through fields at over 40 miles an hour. Climate shaped evolution. Droughts came, floods followed. Entire species vanished as others adapted or died. Through it all, Earth spun on, writing its history in claw marks and fossil beds. Then came the Skyfire, a rock from space, a moment of extinction. Darkness swept the globe. Plants died. Temperatures plunged. The reign of dinosaurs was over, but their legacy would live on. In the bones beneath our feet, in the birds above our heads, and in the stories we tell of a world before time, a world of wonder, of terror, of breathtaking beauty, where giants ruled and Earth itself was alive. But even as extinction loomed, Earth was still full of wonders few could imagine. In lush coastal lagoons, herds of hadrosaurs gathered, their strange calls echoing like music across the marsh. These weren't mindless beasts. They traveled in groups, protected their young, and may have even mourned their dead. Each footprint left in mud told of intelligence and emotion. In the north, icy winds howled over polar forests, where feathered dinosaurs adapted to cold and long nights. They were survivors, proof that evolution had plans beyond teeth and scale. Back in the tropics, the rainforest teemed with creatures of every shape and color. Some used camouflage, some used display, some used brute force, and some used speed. Not all dinosaurs were titans. Some were no larger than chickens, yet every bit as fierce. Evolution was relentless. It tested every shape, every strategy. Spines, plates, crests, feathers, horns, each a response to Earth's changing moods. And as the continents drifted, isolated populations gave rise to entirely new species. Dinosaurs of the southern hemisphere evolved apart. Strange, alien, beautiful. There were the massive Argentinosaurus, so large their steps shook the ground like thunder. And the terrifying Giganotosaurus, rival to the T-Rex, prowling the ancient South American plains. The seas too continued to shift, vast inland oceans created by rising global temperatures. There, sea monsters ruled unchecked. No gills, no mercy. Above, the sky was alive with color. Bird-like raptors glided between branches, their feathers dazzling in hues we can only guess. And below, the earth whispered its secrets, bones turning to stone, forests buried beneath volcanic ash. Time encasing life like a museum in the dirt. The asteroid wasn't the end of dinosaurs. It was the end of their world, but the beginning of ours. Some evolved, some survived in the smallest corners, and some still soar above us every single day, yet their shadows linger. Every museum skeleton, every fossil pulled from ancient stone, is a monument to a time when Earth didn't belong to us. We think of ourselves as kings of the planet, but for millions of years, that crown belonged to something else. Creatures that ruled with claw and fang, creatures that shaped the land, creatures that remind us how fragile greatness can be. Their world is gone, but it left its mark. On our myths, on our bones, on our dreams, a glimpse into a forgotten age, where Earth was wild, untamed, and truly alive. But this story doesn't end here. If this world stirred something in you, if the roar of the T-Rex or the shadow of the Quetzalcoatlus gave you chills, then hit that like button and let us know this journey was worth it. Subscribe now to uncover the rest of Earth's hidden past. From deep ocean leviathans to ancient warriors, empires, and mysteries waiting in stone. So the next time you look up at a bird in the sky, remember, its ancestors once walked beside monsters. What we've shown you today isn't just science, it's a resurrection. Because this channel is where the dead roar back to life. And you're just in time for the next chapter.
They called them savages. Beasts from the ice-choked north. But what sailed from Scandinavia wasn't chaos, it was precision. Row upon row of hardened warriors, faces carved by cold winds, eyes set on glory. When the longships breached foreign shores, history bent beneath their oars. From the fjords of Norway to the burning monasteries of Lindisfarne, the Viking Age was baptized in fire. But they were not just raiders, they were poets, builders, lovers, and kings. Each raid told a story. Each conquest fed a legacy that no blade could erase. It began in the late 8th century. A single strike on English soil marked a turning point. Lindisfarne, 793. The Northumbrian monks never saw it coming. The sea had always protected them until now. The Vikings arrived like a storm with axes instead of thunder. Gold, relics, manuscripts, and blood soaked the ground. Europe awoke, trembling. But they did not stop with England. From the shores of Francia, where they would one day lay siege to Paris, to the Emerald Hills of Ireland, the Norse carved their mark. They founded Dublin with blood-stained hands and iron ambition, ruling the city as both tyrants and traitors. They came not just to take, but to stay. In the east, Swedish Vikings, Varangians, traveled the rivers of Russia. Some became kings. Others pledged themselves to Byzantium, earning renown as the feared Varangian Guard. Cloaked in steel and silence, they guarded emperors, far from the snows of their homeland. Back in the west, one name echoed louder than all, Ragnar Lothbrok. Whether man or myth, his legend moved armies. It is said he sailed across the North Sea, led daring raids across Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, and laughed at death itself when captured by King Aella of Northumbria. They say snakes devoured him in a pit, but even that could not kill the legend. His sons would avenge him with fury unmatched. Hit that like button if you are enjoying the video, really helps to support the channel. The great heathen army descended upon England in 865, united not just by blood, but by wrath. Ivar the Boneless, a commander as ruthless as he was brilliant, carved through kingdoms, forging fear into loyalty. No one knew how he stood, yet all trembled when he moved. But with power came division. The sons of Ragnar fractured. Ivar would not live forever. And as Viking kingdoms rose, York in England, the Danelaw across Mercia, so too did betrayals. Brothers turned against brothers. Kings were crowned and dethroned with blades still warm. In Iceland, settlers carved farms from volcanic stone, chasing peace away from war. Yet even there, blood feuds burned hotter than lava. One man's honor could ignite years of vengeance. The sagas tell of love lost, oaths broken, and warriors choosing death over shame. To the south, the Vikings dared the Mediterranean. In 859, they raided the coasts of Spain, North Africa, and even reached Italy. But the sea was no ally here. Disease, heat, and unfamiliar shores weakened them. Still, they fought, for even in retreat, a Viking must die with pride. They ruled Normandy, not with axes, but alliances. The Frankish king granted land to Rollo, a Viking warlord, in exchange for peace. Rollo bent the knee, but never the will. His descendants would one day change Europe forever. One of them would be called William the Conqueror. But the Viking world, like all things, began to fade. Christianity seeped into their bones. Kings traded Odin's fury for the cross. The old gods were buried, not slain. Still, some resisted. Some clung to the ancient ways, fighting both crusaders and time itself. In 1066, one last roar shook the north. Harold Hardrada, a warrior king and former Varangian, sailed to claim the English crown. He died at Stamford Bridge, struck down before the Battle of Hastings would seal England's fate. With his fall, the Viking Age ended, not in surrender, but in a final glorious stand. Yet their spirit never died. Their ships still haunt history's shores. Their names echo in our bloodlines. Their tales wrapped in ice and fire are told again and again. Not as villains. Not as myths. But as men who dared to shape the world with nothing but iron and will. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you'd like to see more, subscribe to see our future videos. Share if you'd like to support the channel.
The sun rises over Rome. Not gently, not kindly. It blazes like a god's eye over blood-soaked sands and towering stone. In the shadow of palaces and temples, the city's heartbeat isn't found in poetry or politics. It's in the sound of chains clinking in the dark, as another gladiator wakes to survive another day. He's not born of nobility. He has no last name. He is one of thousands, slaves, criminals, and prisoners of war, forced into the arena for Rome's cruel entertainment. In the eyes of the empire, he is nothing more than flesh meant to fall. The day begins with brutality. Before food. Before rest. The Lannister barks orders as wooden swords crash into ribs, into jaws, into guts. Training isn't just pain. It's a science. Gladiators are drilled in dozens of combat styles. The secutor, built like a tank behind a rounded helmet and shield. The retiarius, fast and vicious, armed with a net and trident. Each role demands perfection. One misstep in the arena, and you're dead before the crowd can even gasp. Sweat soaks the sand. Men fall from exhaustion, not weakness. Because weakness doesn't survive in the ludus. Food is rationed for muscle. Oatmeal, barley, beans. A gladiator's diet is heavy, meant to build a layer of fat that slows bleeding when the blade strikes. Every inch of them is built for violence. But even in this hell, he finds her. A Thracian warrior. Not just a novelty to parade around. She's trained, deadly, scarred, and defiant. Gladiatrix. She fights like a storm in flesh. They met in the pit, neither yielding, both bleeding, until the doctor called it off. Since then, it's been something unspoken. Respect. Tension. And beneath it, something neither of them dares name. Love. But love here is dangerous. Even fatal. They're not allowed to choose who they live for, only who they kill. At night, the barracks are a graveyard of dreams. Some men speak of freedom, of winning the crowd's favor, of earning the rudies, the wooden sword that means liberation. But it's a lie whispered to keep hope alive. Less than 10% of gladiators ever tasted freedom. Most died before their third year in the arena. When the scroll is read the next morning, his name is called. His heart doesn't race. It slows. Because hers is called too. Paired. Together. Not as allies, but as enemies. The crowd will adore this. Love turned to blood, the ultimate show. The Colosseum isn't a place. It's a monster. Seated with over 50,000 people, it hungers for spectacle. Beneath its floors lie trapdoors, cages, and corpses. Animals are released. Fires are lit. Fates are sealed. He enters the arena, heart-pounding, face masked, sword heavy. She stands opposite him, radiant and brutal. Their eyes meet. There's no fear. Only understanding. One of them must fall. The crowd chants. The Emperor gestures. And the battle begins. They don't hold back. Every strike is real. Every dodge a decision between life and death. But behind the blows is something else. A rhythm, a code. They are telling a story the crowd doesn't understand. Lovers pretending to hate, Warriors refusing to die. He takes a knee, 2 fingers raised in the air. Missio, it was called, yielding to his opponent, asking for her mercy. She slashes, close enough to draw blood, not death. The audience roars. They believe it. Believe she has won. But instead of finishing it, she turns and throws her sword into the sand. The silence is deafening. Then chaos erupts. Guards swarm the arena. Disobedience is punishable by death. But in that moment, he rises beside her. 2 gladiators no longer playing their part. They fight. Not each other, the guards. Blades clash. Shields shatter. Blood paints the sand. It's madness. But for a few moments they are free, not slaves, not actors in someone else's story. They are warriors, choosing love over obedience. Choosing death on their feet over a life on their knees. It doesn't end in freedom. It never does. The Empire is a machine. And machines don't break for passion. But in the end, they stood together. Defied fate. And for that, their names are whispered in corners of history. They didn't just survive the arena. They rewrote its rules. If this story moved you, like the video to keep its fire alive. Subscribe for more cinematic tales of forgotten legends and forbidden love. And share this with someone who believes even in darkness, we still choose who we fight for.
The sea was quiet, but her mind was not. Long before her crew stirred, she stood at the helm, watching the horizon for something no map could show. Salt clung to the air, thick with the promise of blood, gold, or both. To the crew, she was captain, but before she earned their fear, she was a daughter, a lover, and a secret. Below deck, the ship creaked like an old beast waking from a dream. Boots thudded against the boards as her crew emerged from their bunks, sharpening blades, tying ropes, and grumbling over old wounds and fresh debts. No one asked where they were headed. They knew better. She always knew where the tide would take them, long before it changed. She hadn't taken command by vote or birthright. She took it by force. The last man to call himself captain had laughed when she offered a plan. He laughed until she slit his throat in front of the crew. By sunset, half the ship swore loyalty. By sunrise, the rest had no choice. Now she commanded more than sails. She commanded silence and fear. A distant island appeared like a scar on the ocean. Hidden within its cliffs was a cache of stolen gold, smuggled by cowards who thought no one would find it. But she had the map, and she had the stomach to take what others only dreamed about. They landed at dusk. Moss-covered statues guarded the shore like forgotten gods. Her boots sank into the wet earth as they followed her into the jungle. Torchlight flickered over sweat and steel. They found the cave behind a waterfall, sealed by a stone marked with a symbol she knew all too well. It was her family crest, the one her father wore before he was betrayed and beheaded by the very fleet she now hunted. The treasure wasn't just gold. It was revenge. They unearthed the crates in silence. No one spoke as she opened the first chest. Inside was more than coin. There were scrolls, names and secrets bought and buried. She smiled, knowing power is heavier than gold but worth far more. Back on the ship, the wind shifted. She felt it before the storm hit. Rain poured sideways. The mast groaned. Lightning cracked the sky like a cannon blast. And through the chaos, another ship emerged from the dark. Its sails were black and it flew no flag. It was a ghost ship. They weren't after coin. They were after her. A figure stood on the other deck, face hidden, but she knew the voice. He had come back, the same man who betrayed her months before. The same man she once let into her bed, her plans and her heart. He hadn't died in that storm after all. He had made a deal instead. As the ships collided, steel met steel. The decks turned to battlegrounds. She moved like a storm in human form, with one blade, one pistol, and one purpose. Every enemy she struck down whispered a piece of her past. She cornered him on the aft deck. His blade trembled. He didn't beg. He smiled.
They say I was born with cherry blossoms in my hair. My name is Akiko. Daughter of Lord Katsuro. Samurai. Warrior. Father. To the world he is a blade. To me he is a storm. Every morning, I wake before the sun kisses the mountains. My feet touch the floor with reverence. My breath becomes a prayer. Before the world demands anything of me, I reclaim silence. I do not choose my clothing. I do not choose my meals. I do not choose my fate. But I have learned to master the spaces in between. The pauses. The looks. The things not said. The boys train with swords in the courtyard below. Their grunts echo like war drums. I watch from behind the paper screen, still invisible. They sweat. They bleed. When I was 10, I picked up a bokken and laughed. Father saw me, and the laughter died. He said, "Your hands are for teacups, not blood." But what of my heart, Father? What of my fire? At mid-morning, I walk the gardens with Lady Hannah. We speak of cherry blossoms, marriages, the weather. I nod. I smile. But beneath it, I dream of forests, of wind, of running so far no one can find me. And sometimes, I dream of him. The first time I saw him, he was sharpening his blade by the shrine. Torn robes. Old scars. No master. A Ronin. Father says they are shame-made flesh. But shame has never looked so human. He bowed, not as a servant, but as a man. And in that small moment, something ancient passed between us. Not love. Not yet. But recognition. At night, I write letters I will never send. To him. To the girl I am not allowed to be. To the gods who no longer answer. My mother's fan rests by my bed. Delicate. Beautiful. Breakable. Just like she was. Dinner is served on silence. Father sits at the head of the table, his eyes heavy with disappointment he never voices. The servants glide like ghosts. I do not speak unless spoken to. I chew the rice and swallow the sorrow. But tonight, I sneak out. Soft steps. No sound. I meet him in the temple garden. And for the first time, someone looks at me like I am not property. He speaks of the northern provinces, of honor lost and found. I speak of Judy in cages. He touches my hand and I don't pull away. Just for tonight, I am not Akiko the daughter. I am Akiko, the woman. The next morning, the ink on my pillow is still wet. Father has read the letter I never meant to send. The house is quieter than usual. The kind of quiet that comes before storms. He does not shout. He does not strike. He simply tells me, "You will marry General Ito in spring. There will be no further disgrace." That night, I do not write. I pack a blade beneath my robes. Mother once told me, "The world will not be kind to a woman who chooses her own path." She was right. But kindness was never what I wanted. I leave before sunrise. I do not cry. I do not look back. Now I live by my own code. I travel village to village, healing, helping, watching. Some call me a ghost. Others call me a warrior. But I call myself free. I am no one's daughter now. I am no man's shadow. I do not ask for permission. I take my place in history. This was my life. A single day. If you felt something from this story, hit that like button. Subscribe to Knowledge is Power to see future videos.
In a world where global powers rise and fall, one nation continues to cast a shadow across land, sea, air, space, and beyond. The United States of America commands the single most powerful military force the world has ever seen. In 2024, America's defense budget reached $997 billion. That's more than the combined military spending of China, Russia, India, Saudi Arabia, the UK, Germany, France, Japan, and South Korea combined. Nearly 40% of the entire planet's military budget belongs to the United States. This isn't just national defense, it's global dominance. Across the globe, the U.S. operates more than 750 military bases in over 80 countries. From Germany to Japan, from Guam to Djibouti, American boots, aircraft, and missile systems are already in place. These aren't symbolic outposts. These are real command centers, launch pads, hangars, war-ready installations capable of rapid response, surveillance, or full-scale conflict at a moment's notice. At sea, the U.S. Navy is unmatched. 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers serve as floating fortresses, each carrying up to 80 aircraft. No other nation has more than 2. Alongside them sail 9 amphibious assault ships, 92 guided missile destroyers, and a submarine fleet that can disappear beneath the ocean's surface and reappear anywhere in the world. In the skies, America rules with over 13,000 military aircraft. That includes over 1,800 fighter jets and more than 700 aerial tankers, giving U.S. forces the power to strike, refuel, and continue missions long after others would need to retreat. The F-22 Raptor and F-35 Lightning II don't just dominate the air, they render enemy radar systems nearly useless. On land, the scale is equally overwhelming: 4,640 tanks, over 1,800 pieces of towed artillery, hundreds of rocket launcher systems, and more than 390,000 ground vehicles that range from armored troop carriers to advanced mobile command stations. Behind this machinery stands an army of over 1.3 million active duty personnel. Add another 800,000 in reserves. That's over 2 million trained warriors at the ready. Each soldier, sailor, airman, and marine is backed by the most sophisticated logistics network ever created, with weapons, gear, drones, satellites, fuel, and rations moving with machine-like precision across continents. And this isn't just about tanks and jets. The U.S. is investing heavily in future warfare, in space, cyberspace, and artificial intelligence. The newly activated U.S. Space Force monitors threats in orbit. Billions are being poured into space-based missile defense, satellite jamming technology, and next-generation communication networks. Cyber Command, operating in digital shadows, defends against intrusions and launches its own attacks, with tools as devastating as any missile. In comparison, China spends around $296 billion on its military. Russia? Just over $100 billion. And their global presence? A fraction of the reach America commands. Let's talk bullets. The U.S. produces and maintains over 2 billion rounds of small arms ammunition annually. Over 90,000 jet engines are in active service or reserve. Tens of thousands of drones patrol the skies. Surveillance drones, combat drones, reconnaissance systems, each with lethal efficiency. Then there's nuclear. The U.S. has around 5,244 nuclear warheads. Submarines, bombers, and intercontinental ballistic missiles stand ready with second strike capability, a deterrent so powerful it has defined global politics for generations. And when war breaks out, the U.S. can respond with overwhelming force in under 72 hours, anywhere on Earth. Aircraft carriers deploy, submarines vanish, drones launch, cyber teams activate. A global response unfolds like clockwork. This isn't just military strength, it's engineered supremacy, a layered defense, a global strike force. A machine built for any war, anywhere, anytime. And it's not slowing down. With new generations of hypersonic missiles, AI-driven battle systems, and robotic armor already in development, America's war machine is evolving. From deep ocean trenches to orbital space, from deserts to city streets, the reach is total. The message is clear. No nation can match it. No alliance can outspend it. And no threat can be ignored by it. This is the true scale of American military power. A force without equal. A reach without borders. A future defined by dominance. If this opened your eyes, subscribe to our channel for more epic breakdowns of the powers shaping our world. And hit the bell, because what comes next, you won't want to miss. Before borders or bullets, this land thrived under the care of its First Nations. Over 500 tribes with more than 300 languages lived across the continent. From the towering pines of the Pacific Northwest to the sun-scorched mesas of the Southwest. Peace wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. It was a world of sacred rivers, sky dances, buffalo migrations, and unwritten laws held in honor, a civilization far older than the nation that would come to claim it. Then came ships, steel, and handshakes laced with betrayal. Treaties were offered with smiles and signed with lies, written in ink that faded when convenient. The colonists came preaching peace and brotherhood until they came with guns. What began with trade turned to bloodshed. The government carved up the land not with permission, but with force. And when paper wasn't enough, they used fire and fear to finish the job. In 1864, the Sand Creek Massacre shocked even hardened warriors. Cheyenne women and children were slaughtered as they waved white flags under a U.S. military promise of peace. It was called a victory by the newspapers. A cleansing. But to those who watched their families die, it was something else. The first death knell of 1,000 broken promises. The ghost dance came later, a desperate prayer, a sacred ritual meant to bring back the ancestors and return the land to balance. But Washington feared the rhythm of those drums. In 1890, at Wounded Knee, they answered with bullets instead of understanding. More than 250 Lakota were gunned down. The dead included women, children, and old men. Their bodies frozen in the snow were the final images of a century-long betrayal. And yet, even within confinement, love endured. Behind barbed wire and broken promises, a Sioux warrior fell in love with an Apache girl. A bond that defied tradition, distance, and the U.S. government's attempt to divide. Their love was rebellion. Their child, a silent protest against extinction. Then came the schools. Carlisle. Haskell. Calaco. Kill the Indian, save the man, they said. Generations of native children were stripped of their names, their languages, their hair, and their souls. What genocide could not finish, forced assimilation tried to erase. These schools were not places of learning. They were graveyards for identity. Still, the warrior spirit refused to die. In 1876, Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse led the Lakota and Cheyenne to victory at the Battle of Little Bighorn. General Custer fell, along with his arrogance. It was not just a battle. It was the last thunderclap of resistance in a storm that had raged for centuries. The government never forgave the tribes for winning that day. The history books rarely remember it. And what of the women? Buffalo Calf Road Woman, who knocked Custer from his horse. Lozen, who rode with her brother Victorio and could predict the enemy's movements in dreams. Pine Leaf, a warrior who refused to marry, leading men into battle and earning more than 20 warriors' feathers. These were not women behind men, they were the thunder before the storm. From sea to stolen sea, tribal lands vanished on paper. Signatures forced by starvation, deceit, and the barrel of a gun erased over 86 million acres. Maps were redrawn, rivers renamed, cultures pushed underground. But they were never gone. They are still here. Still dancing, still speaking their tongues. Still passing on songs, stories, and scars. They are not relics. They are not folklore. They are not history. They are the heartbeat of this land. Subscribe to our channel for more truth. More beauty. More history they tried to bury. This is only the beginning.
Rome. The name still echoes like a war drum across time. It began with blood. Romulus murdering his twin Remus. The first betrayal. The first throne. And from that moment forward, betrayal became tradition. Rome rose from dirt and ambition. It became an empire that devoured the world. But not through peace. Through war, seduction, strategy, and shadow deals. The Roman legions didn't just conquer. They engineered dominance. Roads that still exist. Bridges stronger than modern steel. And war machines capable of crushing civilizations. But behind the armor were lives no history book dares to explore. While generals bathed in glory, slaves built the empires, cleaned the wounds and shared the beds. The Roman war machine ran on a code, discipline, honor, sacrifice. Yet its greatest victories came from merciless efficiency. Julius Caesar's conquest of Gaul led to over 1 million deaths and hundreds of thousands enslaved. When Vercingetorix, the great Gallic chieftain, surrendered, Caesar kept him in chains for 5 years before executing him in a Roman parade. That was mercy in Rome. Then came the Civil War, Caesar versus Pompey. Rome bled itself dry. The streets of Pharsalus flowed with Roman blood. Families turned on each other. Wives sent messages to assassins. Brothers fought in opposite legions. It was civil war in name only. It was slaughter for control. After Caesar's murder, the chaos didn't end. It simply shifted. Mark Antony, Cleopatra, Octavian. Love became a war tactic. Cleopatra seduced 2 Roman titans and nearly conquered Rome through silk and seduction. She bore Caesar a son. She made Antony abandon his duty. And when it all collapsed, they chose death over submission. The Battle of Actium ended it. Roman ships turned the sea red. Cleopatra's fleet burned, and her empire with it. Octavian became Augustus, the first true emperor. He created peace by destroying everyone who opposed him. That's what Rome called the Pax Romana, peace through absolute power. The emperors that followed were gods in flesh, or demons in disguise. Tiberius executed anyone who whispered against him. He filled his palace with treasures and things that cannot be discussed on YouTube. Caligula turned the palace into a brothel, named his horse a priest, ordered soldiers to collect seashells as spoils of war. Nero played the lyre while Rome burned. But he also built golden palaces and used Christian slaves as torches to light his gardens. Still, they were worshipped, because in Rome, image was everything. They called it virtus, virtue, but real Roman virtue meant power, fear, and legacy. Every war was recorded, every kiss between enemies remembered, every betrayal carved in marble. Love and loyalty were commodities, bought, traded, and sometimes destroyed. The Vestal virgins were supposed to remain pure, but one, named Licinia, fell in love with a consul. When discovered, she was buried alive. He was exiled. Their affair nearly triggered a riot. There were gladiators who loved noble women. One, a Thracian fighter named Spartacus, became a legend. He didn't just fight, he led a revolt of 70,000 slaves. Rome trembled. It took Crassus, one of the richest men in history, to defeat him. When Spartacus fell, 6,000 of his followers were crucified along the Appian Way, a road lined with corpses for miles. A warning carved in flesh. Rome's power stretched from Britain to Syria. They fought Persians, Germanic tribes, Numidians, Parthians, Egyptians, and they learned to use each of their enemies' strengths. And women. Roman generals often took lovers from conquered lands, not just for pleasure, but for intel, alliances, and control. Women like Boudica, queen of the Iceni in Britain, who rose after her daughters were violated. She led a rebellion that burned Roman cities to the ground. Rome nearly lost Britain. Or Zenobia of Palmyra, a queen who conquered Egypt and ruled as if she were a Roman herself. She spoke Latin, studied philosophy, and led armies. She was eventually paraded through Rome in chains. But her legend outlived the emperor who captured her. Women in Rome weren't powerless. They just played a different game. Livia poisoned rivals to make her son emperor. Agrippina seduced her own uncle Claudius and manipulated her way to becoming empress. She raised Nero, who later had her killed, fearing she was too powerful. Every family in Rome was a battlefield. Even love was a gamble of life or death. Some slaves who were loved were freed and became power players. Some lovers were set up as spies. And some romances, like that of Emperor Hadrian and Antinous, became divine legends. When Antinous drowned, Hadrian built statues across the empire. Cities bore his name. He became a god not for who he was, but for who loved him. Rome elevated love into legacy and weaponized it just as easily. But power corrupts, and emperors fell like dominoes. Commodus was strangled in his bath by a wrestler hired by his mistress. Caracalla was murdered while peeing on the side of a road. Elagabalus was hacked to death and thrown in the Tiber for his flamboyant rule and refusal to play Roman politics. Rome collapsed not in a single battle, but through decadence, betrayal, division, and arrogance. Invasions came, Huns, Goths, Vandals, but the empire was already dead in spirit, a corpse wrapped in gold. And still, Rome echoes. Its laws, its architecture, its betrayals. Every empire since has tried to imitate it. None have succeeded, because Rome was never just a city. It was an idea, a living god, a cult of ambition and seduction and blood, and behind its throne stood the forgotten, the slaves, the lovers, the warriors, the assassins. This is their story, Rome's real story, and now it's yours. If you're still watching, you know this isn't your average history lesson. You've just walked through the blood-soaked halls of power, love, and betrayal. You've seen Rome without the marble polish. So if you want more empires, more forbidden stories, more truths too bold for the classroom, then subscribe to the channel right now. Hit that like button and comment your favorite part of Rome's twisted legacy. In the spring of 1453, the greatest city in the world prepared to die. Constantinople, once the heart of the Roman Empire, now stood as a shining relic, surrounded by towering walls and fading prayers. Inside its churches, the faithful begged for salvation. Outside, the most powerful army the East had ever seen gathered under black banners and crescent moons. Sultan Mehmed II, barely 21, had come to carve his name into history, with gunpowder, steel, and blood. For centuries, the city had stood like a beacon, its golden domes and stone ramparts a symbol of civilization itself. Now it faced its final siege. But behind those walls, not all hearts beat in unison. The Byzantine court was fractured, broken by fear and whispers of betrayal. Among them was Helena Palaiologina, the emperor's niece, a diplomat, a poet, and secretly a spy. Helena had begun corresponding with a mysterious figure from the Ottoman side, Iskandar al-Rumi, an elite commander raised in both Greek and Turkish lands. What started as messages of diplomacy turned into something dangerous. They wrote of peace, and then of dreams, and then of each other. She saw a soldier who wanted more than conquest. He saw a woman willing to risk everything for something greater than either empire. The walls of Constantinople were ancient, but the weapons that faced them were not. Mehmed brought monstrous cannons, built by a Hungarian engineer, capable of smashing through stone once thought invincible. Day and night, the thunder echoed. And each morning, the defenders climbed bloodied ramparts to repel the next wave. Among them stood Giovanni Giustiniani, a famed Genoese mercenary commander hired to lead the defense. His armor gleamed, his tactics were ruthless, and his loyalty was for sale. Beside him fought his second-in-command, Alessandro Vero, a cold-eyed strategist with ambitions of his own. He watched Helena closely, not for protection, but for power. He had once loved her. Now he watched her drift toward Iskander. And that could not be allowed. The siege raged for weeks. Ottoman ships, once blocked by chains across the harbor, were hauled over land and launched behind enemy lines. An act so bold, it broke the morale of many inside. Yet still the city held. Arrows fell like rain. Flames rose from towers. The cry of Allahu Akbar clashed with the pealing of Orthodox bells. Each night, Helena and Iskander met in secret, their words exchanged by hidden riders or whispered across the shattered outer walls. Their love grew in the shadows of war, forbidden and fleeting. And above them, Alessandro plotted. On May 28th, with rations gone and morale crumbling, Emperor Constantine prepared for the final assault. He walked the streets in disguise that night, blessing his soldiers and weeping with his people. Some say he knew he would die. Others believe he hoped for a miracle. That same night, Helena vanished. Some believed she fled. Others claimed betrayal. In truth, Alessandro had followed her. He had found the meeting place, a ruined chapel near the outer gate, and waited. When Iskander arrived, Alessandro struck first. Steel met steel. Helena screamed. They fought in silence as the stars burned overhead. Alessandro's blade cut deep, not into Iskander, but into Helena, shielding the man she now loved. Iskander roared, disarmed him, and nearly killed him, but couldn't. He fled into the night, carrying Helena's bleeding body in his arms. At dawn, Mehmed launched his final assault. The walls collapsed under cannon fire and sheer numbers. Giustiniani was wounded and abandoned the field, his men fleeing behind him. Emperor Constantine charged into the breach with sword in hand and was never seen again. The city fell. Churches were looted. The great Hagia Sophia turned into a mosque. Blood ran through the streets where prayers had once echoed. Helena died that morning in a hidden room beneath the palace. Iskander never found her again. Some say he buried her secretly in the Garden of Emperors. Others believe he fled the city forever, broken and dishonored. Alessandro was captured by the Ottomans. Rather than kill him, Mehmed spared his life, impressed by his cunning. But Alessandro lived with a scar on his cheek and a wound in his soul. Sultan Mehmed II rode through the city that day in silence. He ordered his men to stop the destruction. He walked alone through the Hagia Sophia, now echoing with chants in a new tongue. And there, beneath its dome, he whispered a verse from the Quran about the rise and fall of empires. The fall of Constantinople ended the last true chapter of the Roman Empire. It reshaped the world, cutting Europe off from the east, sparking exploration and changing religion, politics, and power forever. But it was also a story of two hearts that met on opposite sides of a war and burned with a love the world was never meant to witness. Knowledge is power. Like if you learned something, subscribe to see new content and share to support the channel.
They did not fight for glory. They fought for belief, a belief so strong it demanded sacrifice, secrecy, and silence. Long before the world spoke of ninjas, there were the Hashashin, the original assassins of the Middle East. From deep within the Alborz mountains of Persia, in a fortress called Alamut, the old man of the mountain trained a legion of killers unlike anything the world had ever seen. Cloaked in mystery and sworn to death, they would become a nightmare whispered by kings, caliphs, and crusaders alike. At the heart of their legend was not just the blade, but the mind. The Hashashin were not butchers. They were surgeons of power. They would spend weeks, even years, studying a target. They would embed themselves as servants, scribes, merchants, even lovers. And then, when the moment struck, they would deliver their message with a single cut, often in public, always in silence. A message that no man, no matter how powerful, could hide from death. One of the earliest kills etched into history was the assassination of Nizam al-Mulk, the vizier of the mighty Seljuk Empire. He was cut down on the road by a man disguised as a wandering dervish. No shouts, no struggle, just steel and blood in the dust. But it would not end there. The Hashashin would strike again and again. Advisors, governors, warlords, even crusader commanders like Conrad of Montferrat, who fell in 1192 to a pair of young assassins posing as monks. He embraced them as holy men. He died with their daggers between his ribs. But among the shadows, there were hearts still beating. Layla al-Khorasani, raised within Alamut's inner sanctum, was both blade and bait, a deadly fusion of beauty and precision. She could poison a goblet in front of a man and make him thank her for the wine. She had killed a Mamluk commander in his own bed, then wept over his corpse as if mourning a lover. But she had never truly loved, not until Khalid, the son of a Damascus noble, whose passion for poetry and politics drew her in like a flame. Her orders were clear: kill him. He was a sympathizer to the Crusaders, a traitor to the faith, a threat. But Layla hesitated. Their nights became long and tender. She told herself it was just a tactic until it wasn't. When word reached Alamut that she had failed to act, she was summoned back. But instead of punishment, she was given a new mission: kill Khalid and prove her loyalty. This time she obeyed. She entered his quarters one final time, whispered a poem he had written into his ear, and slid her blade beneath his ribs. But what the order had not counted on was what she found hidden in his chambers: a map, a plan. Evidence that Khalid was not betraying Alamut, but uncovering a plot against it. The real traitor was someone inside. Someone close to Hassani Saba himself. And so the game shifted. Layla disappeared from the ranks, but she did not go far. She hunted in secret. She found the betrayer, Farid al-Nasir, a high-ranking assassin who had been feeding information to the Seljuks for gold and favor. He had orchestrated Khalid's execution to cover his tracks. Layla killed him slowly, not for Alamut, but for herself. For Khalid. For the truth that had been buried beneath the lies. Meanwhile, the world outside continued to burn. The Hashashin's most daring moment came when they infiltrated the court of Saladin himself, the great Muslim general who had united Egypt and Syria. Twice they tried to kill him. Once they left a dagger on his pillow with a note, "We are closer than your breath." Saladin increased his guard. He did not sleep the same for the rest of his life. Other women, too, rose within the ranks. Zara of Tyre, who famously seduced a Crusader bishop and assassinated him during Mass with a blade hidden in a holy relic. Or Saria, who posed as a concubine to a Byzantine general, only to slaughter him during a banquet. Her escape recorded in stunned Greek scrolls as a ghost that wore perfume. They were not just assassins. They were symbols. The Hashashin weren't an army. They were a message. A message that no man, no matter how powerful, could rule by fear alone. Because fear could bleed. Eventually, the Mongols came. Hulagu Khan brought fire and siege engines to the mountains. In 1256, Alamut fell, its libraries burned, its leaders executed. But the fire didn't end there. The Hashashin had planted seeds in every kingdom, every court, every creed. And even as their fortress turned to ash, their legacy took root. Layla was never seen again. Some say she died at Alamut's gates, blade in hand, eyes on the horizon. Others say she lived, passing her teachings on to a new generation, a hidden line of assassins in the deserts, the palaces, the shadows of every empire that rose and fell after. Today we use the word assassin casually. But the truth is buried deep in those mountains. In blood, in silence, in the echo of a dagger's whisper. Before the ninja, before the spy, before the agent in a suit with a silenced gun, there were the Hashashin. And they were never just killers. They were believers. They were lovers. They were legends. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. If you would like to see more, hit that subscribe button. Share to support the channel.
In the year 1095, the cry of war shook the foundations of Europe. At the Council of Clermont, Pope Urban II summoned the faithful, urging them to take up the cross and reclaim the Holy Land. His voice thundered with divine fire. He promised remission of sins, eternal glory, and the chance to walk where Christ had walked. Across kingdoms and empires, lords, knights, and peasants alike answered the call. One of them was Elias of Rouen, a bastard knight with no inheritance, only a sword and ambition. He rode not for salvation, but for a name worth remembering. The crusade began not with banners, but with chaos. Peasant mobs marched first, ill-prepared and poorly led. They were slaughtered en masse by Turkish raiders before ever reaching Asia Minor. The real army followed, led by nobles like Raymond of Toulouse, Bohemond of Taranto, Godfrey of Bouillon, and others who mistrusted one another more than the enemy. In Byzantium, tensions flared. Emperor Alexios demanded oaths of loyalty before granting aid. Bohemond, ever the schemer, swore allegiance with a smile he didn't mean. In the shadows of Constantinople, Elias met Seraphine, a high-born Byzantine woman who defied protocol to tend to wounded crusaders. Their first meeting was brief, but her intelligence and fire haunted him long after they rode east. The march across Anatolia was hell. Heat scorched the land. Water was scarce. Turkish horsemen struck from the hills and vanished like ghosts. In Dorylaeum, the Crusaders were ambushed by Kilij Arslan's forces. The vanguard was nearly destroyed. Elias fought alongside Bohemond's men in the heart of the chaos, blood-soaked and battered, saving a wounded child who clung to his leg amidst the screams. Reinforcements arrived just in time. Victory came at a cost. Hundreds lay dead beneath the sun, their armor melted to their bones. Infighting poisoned the crusade from within. Bohemond seized supplies meant for the whole army, forcing others to beg or steal. Raymond of Toulouse accused him of betrayal. A council was called, but no justice followed. Meanwhile, Elias discovered a secret. Baldwin of Boulogne, Godfrey's own brother, had abandoned his men and taken control of Edessa, carving out a personal kingdom. His betrayal would ripple across the crusade, a warning that the Holy War had become a game of thrones. The march to Antioch was marked by frost and starvation. When the Crusaders arrived, the city stood tall, defiant behind its towering walls. The siege began. Days turned into months. Food ran out. Men boiled leather for soup. One knight, mad from hunger, murdered his friend for a crust of bread. Within the camp, Isabel, Elias's sharp-witted sister disguised as a squire, uncovered a plot to sell secrets to the enemy. The traitor was a Flemish noble who had promised Antioch to the Fatimids in exchange for gold. Elias confronted him under torchlight, blade drawn. The traitor laughed, said, "You think this war is holy?" before Elias cut him down. His body burned in a pit, a warning to all. Hope faded. A priest claimed to find the Holy Lance beneath a church floor, guided by a vision from God. Bohemond saw an opportunity. He rallied the men with righteous fury, though some whispered he had planted the relic himself. With renewed zeal, the Crusaders stormed Antioch through a secret gate, bribed open by a local guard. The city fell in blood and fire. Streets ran red. Inside the chaos, Elias found Seraphine tending to both friend and foe. She had come alone against her father's wishes to serve those too broken to fight. Her courage seared itself into Elias's heart, a light in the darkness. But the siege was not over. Days later, Kerboga's vast army arrived. Now the Crusaders were the besieged, trapped inside the ruined city. Food ran dry again. Disease took more than the sword. Men abandoned hope. Bohemond refused to honor his oath to return Antioch to Byzantium. He declared himself prince of the city. Raymond opposed him, and the army split into factions. In secret, Bohemond offered Elias command of a battalion if he swore loyalty. Elias declined. His loyalty was to the mission, not a man. That night, someone set fire to the armory. Dozens burned. The traitor was never found. Inside a makeshift hospital, Layla, a captured Saracen healer, worked tirelessly to save the wounded. Isabel, recovering from a spear wound, grew close to her. Their bond formed in whispered words and stolen glances, in the quiet defiance of a war that wanted them enemies. When Layla was accused of poisoning the sick, a mob dragged her to the square. Isabel intervened, casting off her disguise and naming herself a noble of Rouen. Her authority held just long enough for Layla to escape, but not before Elias struck down one of the ringleaders. Their unity frayed. The Crusaders faced destruction from within, and yet they rallied. With the Holy Lance at the front and madness in their eyes, the Crusaders charged Kerboga's army. Against all odds, they broke the siege. The Muslim forces fractured and fled.
Antioch was theirs, not by pity but by sheer brutality.
The road to Jerusalem stretched long and broken. Along the way, the Crusaders retook towns they had once bypassed, including Ma'ara, where they butchered prisoners and, according to some, ate the flesh of their enemies in desperation. Elias did not partake. He wept for what they had become. Outside the city of Arca, another ambush waited. Muslim cavalry shattered the Crusader scouts. 100 men was lost. Bohemond refused to send aid, hoping to weaken Raymond's forces. Elias led a daring midnight raid into the enemy camp, rescuing survivors and striking a blow that turned the tide. The attack left him bloodied and near death, but in his fever he dreamed of Seraphine's face and awoke screaming, more determined than ever. By the time they reached Jerusalem in 1099, there was nothing left of the men who had begun the journey. The Crusaders built siege towers from dismantled ships dragged overland. Under a burning sun, they launched their final assault. Arrows darkened the skies. Boiling oil fell from the walls. Elias climbed with sword in hand, crying out not for God, but for the memory of every friend buried along the way. They broke through. The city fell. What followed was not war, it was annihilation. Muslims, Jews, even Eastern Christians were slaughtered. The air stank of death. Seraphine, who had snuck into the city with a group of nurses, found Elias collapsed in the temple courtyard, surrounded by corpses. He looked up and whispered, "We won," as if unsure it was true. Elsewhere, Isabel and Layla had fled the crusade entirely. They returned to Aleppo in secret, living as ghosts in a world that had no place for their story. But they endured, proof that love could survive even when empires crumbled. Jerusalem was captured. The crusade declared a triumph. Godfrey of Bouillon refused to be called king, naming himself defender of the Holy Sepulchre. Bohemond ruled Antioch like a petty warlord. Raymond returned to Europe, bitter and broken. Elias stayed behind, guarding the city with hollow eyes. He had found what he came for, a name remembered, but at what cost? The First Crusade carved a path through history with steel and fire. It united the West, shattered the East, and left scars across continents. But among the ruins, stories endured. Stories of forbidden love, of betrayal, of honor and shame, of those who fought not just for Holy Land, but for something more. In the end, it wasn't God or glory that defined the crusade. It was the people caught in its storm. Thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, hit that like button, subscribe to see future content, and share to support the channel. Knowledge is power.
They appear in every corner of the world, from China to Scandinavia, from the jungles of Mesoamerica to the sands of ancient Mesopotamia. Cultures that never met, separated by oceans and centuries, all told tales of massive reptilian beasts. Sometimes with wings, sometimes with fire, sometimes as gods, sometimes as monsters. The dragon is the only mythical creature that exists universally across human civilization. And that fact alone makes it more than just a myth. It makes it a global memory. The earliest records of dragons come from Mesopotamia, over 5,000 years ago. In Babylonian myth, Tiamat was a primordial chaos serpent, a monstrous dragon goddess of salt water, whose body was split in half to create the heavens and the earth. These weren't fairy tales. They were sacred origin stories, told by some of the world's first literate societies. In Egypt, long serpents protected the underworld, while in ancient India, the Naga were powerful serpent beings, half human, half divine, who lived in underground kingdoms and influenced weather and fertility. Even in early Hebrew texts, the sea beast Leviathan is a dragon of terrifying scale and strength. To the ancient world, dragons weren't fictional. They were cosmic forces, Across the ocean in China, dragons took on a very different shape. Long-bodied and snake-like, the Chinese dragon was not a destroyer, but a bringer of rain, a symbol of imperial power and wisdom. It had no wings but could fly. It breathed no fire but commanded the skies. Emperors claimed descent from dragons. Even today, the dragon remains a symbol of strength and fortune in Chinese culture. In Japan, Korea, and Southeast Asia, similar dragons appeared. Celestial, revered, sometimes even worshipped. These dragons were not enemies, they were ancestors. In the West, the story took a darker turn. Norse mythology told of Jormungandr, the world serpent so large it encircled the entire earth, destined to poison the skies during the end of days. In Germanic tales, there was Fafnir, a man-turned-dragon, consumed by greed and slain by a hero. By the Middle Ages, dragons in Europe were evil incarnate. They hoarded gold, destroyed villages, and were almost always killed by a righteous knight. The most famous of these was St. George, the dragon slayer whose story became propaganda for Christian heroism against pagan chaos. In nearly every Western story, the dragon is something to be conquered. It represents chaos, darkness, or the devil himself. But there's something strange about all of this. If dragons were only myths, why did so many ancient cultures invent the same creature? Why were their features, wings, scales, breath of fire, serpentine bodies, so consistent? Some historians suggest ancient people unearthed massive bones from long-extinct animals. Dinosaur fossils, mammoth skulls, and even whale bones may have sparked imaginations and inspired legends. To a farmer in 2000 BC with no concept of extinction, finding a fossilized femur the size of a tree would have been confirmation that monsters once walked the earth. Others believe dragons may have roots in real animals. Crocodiles, pythons, and Komodo dragons are all plausible inspirations. The ability to breathe fire, while seemingly impossible, has strange parallels in nature. Bombardier beetles, for instance, can eject boiling chemical jets from their bodies as a defense mechanism. A real-life biochemical explosion. Nature may not make true fire breathers, but it doesn't miss the mark by much. Still, the most compelling theory might be psychological. The idea that humans are hardwired to fear serpents and predators is well documented. Evolution taught us to avoid sharp teeth, sudden movement, and the hiss of snakes in tall grass. Perhaps the dragon is not a memory of a real animal, but a symbol stitched into our DNA. A fearsome combination of every threat we once faced in the wild. Sharp claws, wings to swoop from above, scales that deflect weapons, fire that consumes. The ultimate predator, born in the mind, not in the world. Today, dragons are everywhere. From Tolkien's Smaug to Daenerys' Drogon, from anime to video games, we still summon these beasts in our stories. But now they're more than monsters. They are complex characters, sometimes allies, sometimes gods, sometimes misunderstood. We've taken our oldest fear and turned it into one of our most powerful symbols. Strength, freedom, power, mystery. The dragon remains, even when the world that created it is long gone. And maybe that's the real magic. Whether or not dragons ever lived, they have outlived everything else. Kingdoms fell, languages vanished, civilizations collapsed. But the dragon still breathes. In our books, in our dreams, and in the fire we feel when we face the unknown. Knowledge is power. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for future videos.
The next great war will not begin with a warning. It won't start with boots on the ground or jets screaming overhead. It will begin in silence. A perfectly calm sky, pierced not by aircraft, but by hundreds of tiny synchronized dots rising from ships, bunkers, and towers. They look like insects at first, until you realize they're machines. Autonomous, cold, already choosing their targets. In 2021, the Kargu 2 drone was deployed in Libya, and it made history. Without waiting for human input, it hunted down and attacked a retreating soldier. It was the first time a weapon made the decision to kill entirely on its own. No trigger was pulled, no permission given. Just a machine, a target, and an algorithm doing what it was built to do: end a life. That single moment rewrote the rules of war. Across the globe, military leaders and defense companies took note. What followed was not a pause for ethical discussion. It was a race. A rush to develop faster drones, smarter weapons, and battlefield networks that could operate without human interference. No soldier hesitates like a machine that doesn't care. Swarms are now the future. Hundreds of autonomous drones flying in coordinated packs, adapting in real time. China has demonstrated AI-controlled aerial swarms navigating terrain and changing formation mid-flight. The United States has tested air-launched mini-drones deployed from fighters. Turkey's Kargu and Alpagu swarms are already combat-capable. Once launched, they think together, like a hive. If one is destroyed, the others instantly adjust. No chain of command, just decision and action. Now imagine standing beneath that swarm as it descends. The sky flickers with blinking lights, each one identifying heat signatures, marking movements, and communicating with its neighbors. Anti-air systems can't keep up. The swarm breaks apart, circles wide, and surrounds its prey. You could shoot down 20 and still be overwhelmed by 200 more. There's no commander to kill, no HQ to strike. The intelligence is everywhere, in every unit. On the ground, the evolution is even more visceral. Robot quadrupeds, what once looked like science fair projects, now patrol test zones with mounted rifles. In the US, Ghost Robotics has demonstrated armed dog-like machines that climb stairs, stabilize under fire, and aim with deadly precision. China's models can follow soldiers into the field, scan terrain for ambushes, and potentially kill on sight if programmed to do so. These aren't future concepts. They are here now, waiting for mass deployment. Picture a city block at night. Sirens are silent. A mechanical form walks alone, scanning windows, identifying threats, relaying data to no one. Because it doesn't need anyone. When the moment comes, it doesn't scream or hesitate. It fires. Then it moves on. This is not a drone strike from miles away. This is execution on foot, in neighborhoods, against targets chosen by sensors, not conscience. Even borders are no longer patrolled by men. In South Korea, semi-autonomous gun towers watch the DMZ. They can detect, track, and, if authorized, fire on human targets without direct contact. Some claim human approval is always required. Others whisper that the line between authorization and automation is thinner than we think. Up above, lasers are changing the air war entirely. The U.S. Navy's Helios system has already been installed aboard warships. A directed energy weapon capable of vaporizing drones and missiles with pinpoint accuracy. It doesn't explode, it doesn't make noise. A silent beam of light hits a target, and it's gone. Israel's Iron Beam can shoot down short-range rockets with the same technology. China is developing laser platforms to disable satellites, making war in space a quiet, blinding affair. At sea, the shift is just as dramatic. The U.S. Sea Hunter is an AI-powered submarine tracking ship that requires no crew. It can trail an enemy sub for months without a single human on board. Unmanned underwater drones now can ocean floors, laying mines or surveilling ships. War at sea is no longer a matter of fleets. It's a matter of silence. Whoever detects first wins. Cyber warfare, no longer conducted by lone hackers, but by AIs that move faster than thought. These systems scan global traffic, find security gaps, and deploy custom-made malware in seconds. Some AIs are even trained to mimic a target's behavior, allowing them to impersonate generals, politicians, or soldiers via email or video with near-perfect accuracy. Reality itself becomes a weapon. Cyber warfare is on the rise. Billions are spent on prevention and deployment. By the time truth caught up, lives had already been lost. Fake messages on deployment can be costly. What happens when troops don't trust their commanders? What happens when they're right not to? AI doesn't just execute, it strategizes. The U.S. Department of Defense has tested systems like Project Convergence, where AI tools plan entire missions, analyze terrain, assign roles, and monitor live combat. In these war games, AI outperforms human commanders by reacting faster, calculating more outcomes, and refusing to hesitate. And when the choice is between saving one platoon or winning the battle, the algorithm doesn't blink. Ethical lines are fading fast. The more efficient a system becomes, the less room it has for morality. Human rules of war, proportionality, discrimination, compassion, don't compute. If the AI concludes that a hospital is a valid target because it contains a transmitter, it won't ask for clarification. It will strike, and it won't feel regret. In some military simulations, AI has already chosen to sacrifice its own side to win faster. No emotional pause, no delay, just optimization. Once that thinking dominates a battlefield, the human element isn't just unnecessary, it becomes a liability. And what happens when two AI superpowers go to war? There will be no draft, no speeches, no escalation. One AI detects an aggressive move, a satellite going dark, a radar glitch, a pattern in cyber traffic. Within minutes, drones are airborne, lasers are firing, systems are collapsing. No side wants it, no one authorizes it, but the war has already begun. Imagine waking up to a world that's already gone dark. The internet is down. GPS doesn't work. A drone swarm flies silently overhead. Autonomous tanks move through cities. No enemy soldiers in sight, only machines, executing the war they were programmed for. No announcement, no flags, just impact. You try to run, you try to call someone, but satellites are gone, the communications jammed. The cities are shadows, and the machines, they are still moving, methodical, calculated, heartless. The war isn't over. It never really started. It was simply activated. This is real danger of autonomous war. Not the weapons, not the battles, only a variable, to be measured, moved, or removed. We've trained the machines to fight, but we've never trained them to stop. Knowledge is power. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. If you liked it, hit that like button. If you would like to see more, please subscribe to see future videos.
They called themselves Spartans, the perfect warriors. But beneath their sandals, buried in silence and blood, were the Helots. Slaves in all but name. They were the invisible hands that fed Sparta, tilled its lands, bore its burdens. And when they rose, they nearly shattered the myth of Spartan invincibility. For centuries, the Helots outnumbered Spartans by as many as 7-1. But Sparta, ever fearful, ruled with fear. Each year, Spartan youth were sent on the Cryptaia, a state-sanctioned killing spree to hunt and assassinate any Helot deemed too bold, too proud, or too strong. But fear cannot silence suffering forever. Around 464 BC, the earth beneath Sparta shook violently. An earthquake leveled homes, temples, and barracks. And in the chaos, the Helots saw a crack in their chains. They rose. In Messenia, thousands of Helots seized weapons, fortified Mount Ithome, and defied the gods of war themselves. Spartan warriors marched on them, elite hoplites armored head to toe. But the rebels knew the terrain. They were farmers and hunters, hardened by toil, driven by rage. And among them stood one figure the records barely whisper of. A man named Karagos. Karagos was no ordinary Helot. A former servant in a noble household, he'd once shared secret glances with the daughter of a Spartan commander, a woman named Thalia. Her beauty was whispered about across Laconia, but her heart beat for justice and her love for Karagos. When the revolt broke out, legend says she vanished from Sparta. Some claim she joined him. From the shadows of the mountain, rebel scouts moved like ghosts. Spartan reinforcements were ambushed, supply lines burned. Karagos knew their tactics. He had once polished their weapons and armors, now he cracked it open with stolen spears. Thalia, it is said, nursed wounded fighters after the battles. Some called her the Angel of Ithome. Others swore they saw her ride with the rebels, white cloak flowing behind her like Athena reborn. But Sparta would not bend. They called upon allies, Corinth, Athens, even their rivals. For 10 long years, the Helots held Mount Ithome. 10 years of blood, fire, and defiance. Eventually, terms were offered. The Helots, or what remained, were allowed to leave, free men under bitter skies. Karagos? Some say he fell in the final siege, never found. Others whisper that he and Thalia escaped in disguise, sailing to freedom and vanishing from history. Her golden pin, carved with the symbol of a broken chain, was later found on the slopes of Ithome. And so, the Helot revolt faded into dust, not written by victors, not taught in schools. But beneath the ruins of Sparta, the stones still remember. And if you listen close, you'll hear the whispers of slaves who dared to rise. Knowledge is power. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. Like if you learned something, subscribe to see new content and share to support the channel. The Book of Enoch, the forbidden text that reveals ancient secrets. The Book of Enoch is one of the most mysterious and controversial ancient writings ever discovered. Though it was once considered sacred by early Jews and Christians, it was later banned and declared non-canonical by most religious institutions. Yet the Book of Enoch remains a powerful window into a forgotten era, one where angels walked the earth, giants ruled the land, and secrets of the heavens were recorded in great detail. Believed to be written between 300 BCE and 100 BCE, the Book of Enoch is attributed to Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah. In the Bible, Enoch is described as a man who walked with God and was taken to heaven without dying. This ancient text expands on his story dramatically. The Book of Enoch was considered scripture by many Jewish groups and early Christian sects. It was even quoted in the New Testament in the Book of Jude. However, by the 4th century, it was removed from most versions of the Bible. Only the Ethiopian Orthodox Church preserved it as part of its official biblical canon. For centuries, it was lost to the Western world. That changed in 1773 when Scottish explorer James Bruce returned from Ethiopia with 3 copies of the Book of Enoch in the ancient Ge'ez language. Since then, the book has fascinated theologians, historians, and conspiracy theorists alike. One of the most shocking parts of the Book of Enoch is its account of the Watchers, fallen angels who descended to earth and took human women as wives. This act, forbidden by heaven, resulted in the birth of the Nephilim, giant beings of immense strength and wickedness. These Nephilim corrupted humanity and brought chaos to the earth. The Watchers, led by angels named Semyaza and Azazel, also taught forbidden knowledge to humans. They revealed secrets of the stars, the moon, and the calendar. They introduced the use of metals, cosmetics, weaponry, and even sorcery. The Book of Enoch suggests that this forbidden knowledge accelerated humanity's downfall. God, angered by the corruption, sent the archangels Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel to punish the Watchers and cleanse the earth. The Nephilim were destroyed in a great flood, one that parallels the story of Noah in the Bible. The Watchers were bound and cast into the depths, awaiting their final judgment. The Book of Enoch doesn't stop there. It also provides vivid descriptions of heaven and the cosmos. Enoch is shown the workings of the universe, how the sun and moon travel through the sky, how stars are governed by divine forces, and how time itself is measured by heavenly cycles. Much of this aligns surprisingly well with ancient astronomical systems, though interpreted through a mystical lens. Enoch also describes his journey through multiple heavens, layers of reality where different orders of angels dwell and where judgment and glory are administered. Some of these descriptions echo later Christian and Islamic ideas of heaven and hell, but in unique and fascinating ways. Another major theme in the book is the coming of a great judgment. Enoch speaks of a future day when the righteous will be rewarded, and the wicked, including both humans and fallen angels, will face eternal punishment. It even describes a Son of Man figure chosen by God who will sit on a throne of glory and judge all creation. This has led some scholars to draw parallels to Christian beliefs about Jesus, although the Book of Enoch predates the New Testament. So why was this book banned? The Book of Enoch challenges traditional religious narratives. It presents angels in ways that don't appear in the Bible. It introduces apocalyptic visions, celestial journeys, and supernatural beings that blur the lines between mythology and theology. It also places enormous importance on cosmic justice and divine secrets, topics that were deemed too controversial or heretical by later religious authorities. Yet today, the Book of Enoch is more accessible than ever. Translations are widely available, and researchers continue to debate its meaning, origin, and impact on Judeo-Christian thought. Some believe it holds lost truths. Others see it as a brilliant work of religious imagination. But one thing is certain. The Book of Enoch offers a captivating look into the beliefs of ancient people who saw the universe as a place filled with mystery, danger, and divine purpose. Knowledge is power. Like if you learned something, subscribe to see new content and share to support the channel.
The city was called Stalingrad, and in 1942 it became the bloodiest battleground in human history. Temperatures dropped below freezing. Ammunition ran low. Bodies froze in place, rifles still in hand, but neither side would surrender. Germany had launched Operation Barbarossa the year before, tearing through the Soviet Union with blitzkrieg force. Now Hitler wanted to break Soviet morale by taking Stalin's namesake city. What he didn't expect was the Soviet will to survive. The city turned into a maze of rubble and fire. Every block, every stairwell became its own war. Soviet snipers hid in shadows. German tanks rolled over corpses. Civilians starved while artillery rained from the skies. Fighting moved underground. Sewers, basements, tunnels. Soldiers were told, "There is no land beyond the Volga." Then winter arrived. German supply lines froze. Rations vanished. The Soviet counterattack, Operation Uranus, surrounded the Sixth Army. The encirclement was total. Over 250,000 Axis troops trapped inside a city of ice and death. Hitler demanded they hold the city. Paulus, the German commander, obeyed. But no food came, no escape, only frostbite and despair. By February 1943, the surrender began. Over 90,000 German soldiers marched into Soviet captivity. Fewer than 6,000 would ever return home. Stalingrad wasn't just a turning point. It was a symbol of Soviet resilience, of German overreach, of how far men will go when told to fight for everything. Nearly 2 million were killed, wounded, or captured in this single battle. And yet, in that frozen hell, the human spirit endured. Stalingrad was reduced to ashes, but from it, history shifted. A reminder, victory isn't always glory. Sometimes, it's survival. Thank you for watching the video to the end. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. If you would like to see future videos, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for stopping by.
The idea that dreams serve a psychological function remains compelling. Dreams may provide a safe space for processing emotions, rehearsing for challenging situations, and consolidating memories, strengthening the neural pathways that underpin our waking lives. Imagine waking from a dream with your heart pounding, the remnants of a vivid nightmare still clinging to the edges of your awareness. Or perhaps you wake with a feeling of profound peace, a sense of clarity and insight gleaned from a dream filled with symbolic imagery and cryptic messages. Such experiences suggest that dreams are more than just random neural noise. They may be a way for our subconscious mind to communicate with our conscious awareness, offering guidance, warnings, or creative inspiration. Many cultures throughout history have viewed dreams as prophetic, offering glimpses into the future or messages from the divine. Shamans and oracles relied on dreams to guide their decisions, interpret the will of the gods, and heal the sick. While modern society tends to view such beliefs with skepticism, the enduring power of dreams to evoke a sense of awe, wonder, and even spiritual connection cannot be denied. Whether or not we ascribe a literal meaning to our dreams, they can undoubtedly serve as a source of creative inspiration, personal insight, and even spiritual growth. Keeping a dream journal, paying attention to recurring themes and symbols, and exploring the emotions evoked by our dreams can provide valuable insights into our waking lives, helping us to identify unresolved conflicts, uncover hidden desires, and navigate life's challenges with greater awareness. The language of dreams is often symbolic and elusive, requiring us to engage our intuition and imagination to decipher its meaning. A dream about flying might represent a sense of freedom or a desire to escape limitations. A dream about being chased could symbolize a fear of confrontation or a feeling of being overwhelmed. By paying attention to these symbolic messages, we can gain a deeper understanding of our own inner landscape and unlock the hidden potential within our dreams. One of the most intriguing aspects of the dream world is its complete disregard for the laws of physics and the constraints of logic that govern our waking reality. In dreams, we can fly through the air, breathe underwater, teleport to distant locations, and even travel backward or forward in time. The impossible becomes not just possible, but effortlessly so, as if the very fabric of reality is more fluid and malleable within the dreamscape. This bending of reality suggests that our minds are capable of experiencing far more than our senses allow in our waking state. Perhaps the dream world is not a separate realm, but rather an expansion of consciousness itself, a glimpse into a reality where the limitations of space, time, and even physical form no longer apply. Some theories propose that dreams provide a training ground for consciousness, allowing us to explore different possibilities, experiment with different identities, and confront our fears in a safe environment. By pushing the boundaries of our perceived reality, dreams may help us to expand our creativity, problem-solving abilities, and even our capacity for empathy and compassion. Consider the experience of lucid dreaming, where the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming and can consciously influence the course of the dream. Lucid dreamers report being able to fly at will, change the scenery around them, and even interact with dream characters as if they were real people. This level of conscious control within the dream state suggests that our minds are far more powerful than we often realize, capable of shaping not just our waking reality, but also the very fabric of our dreams. Throughout history, many cultures have viewed dreams not just as psychological phenomena, but as spiritual experiences, offering glimpses into the afterlife, connections with deceased loved ones, or even journeys of the soul beyond the physical body. While such interpretations may seem far-fetched in our modern, scientifically oriented world, the enduring power of dreams to evoke a sense of the sacred, the mysterious, and the profound cannot be easily dismissed. Near-death experiences, often characterized by feelings of peace, out-of-body sensations, and encounters with deceased relatives, share some striking similarities with vivid dreams. Some researchers speculate that near-death experiences and dreams may arise from similar neurological processes, blurring the line between our perception of the physical world and the realm of consciousness beyond the brain. Whether or not we interpret dreams as literal journeys of the soul, they can undoubtedly serve as a powerful reminder of the mysteries that lie beyond our current understanding of consciousness and the nature of reality. They challenge us to question our assumptions, expand our awareness, and embrace the possibility that our existence extends far beyond the confines of our physical bodies and the waking world. Perhaps the dream world is not a separate realm, but rather a different dimension of consciousness, a realm where the limitations of time and space dissolve, and we catch fleeting glimpses of a reality that is both timeless and infinite. As we awaken each morning from the embrace of the dream world, we carry with us not just the echoes of fantastical adventures, but also the seeds of a deeper understanding of ourselves and the vast, mysterious universe we inhabit. For centuries, Western science has largely approached consciousness as a product of the brain, a complex symphony of neurons firing, creating the illusion of a unified self. Yet, this perspective, while yielding valuable insights into the mechanics of the mind, often struggles to accommodate the vast array of human experiences that suggest a connection to something greater, something beyond the physical realm. Across the globe, countless cultures, many with traditions spanning millennia, offer alternative perspectives on consciousness. From the ancient yogis of India to the shamans of the Amazon rainforest, many traditions view consciousness not as something generated by the brain, but rather as a fundamental force that permeates the universe, an omnipresent energy field that we tap into, much like a radio receiver tuning into a specific frequency. In these traditions, the brain is not seen as the creator of consciousness, but rather as a receiver, a filter, or even a gateway to a higher realm of awareness. This perspective offers a compelling framework for understanding experiences that challenge the materialist paradigm. Phenomena like near-death experiences, out-of-body sensations, precognitive dreams, and the profound interconnectedness reported by seasoned meditators. Consider the ancient Indian philosophy of Vedanta, which posits that our true nature is not the physical body or the limited ego mind, but rather pure consciousness itself, a universal, all-encompassing awareness that underlies all of existence. This perspective, far from being a quaint relic of the past, is finding increasing resonance with modern thinkers. particularly those exploring the intersection of quantum physics, consciousness studies, and mystical experience. Imagine this. You're floating above your own body, watching as doctors frantically try to revive you. You feel a sense of profound peace, detached from the unfolding drama below. You're drawn towards a warm, inviting light, and as you move closer, you encounter deceased loved ones, their presence both familiar and comforting. This is not a scene from a science fiction film, but rather a common thread in thousands of near-death experiences reported worldwide. While skeptics often attribute near-death experiences to hallucinations caused by oxygen deprivation or the brain's response to trauma, many elements of these experiences defy simple physiological explanations. The consistency of the narratives across cultures, the life-changing impact on those who experience them, and the often detailed recall of events that occurred while clinically dead challenge the notion that these are merely tricks of a dying brain. Could near-death experiences be glimpses into a realm of consciousness that exists independent of the physical body? Could they offer evidence for the soul's survival beyond death? A comforting thought for many grappling with the finite nature of our earthly existence. While science may never be able to definitively prove or disprove the existence of an afterlife, near-death experiences offer a tantalizing glimpse into the mysteries that lie beyond the veil of our current understanding. For those who have had these profound experiences, the impact is often life-altering. Many report a newfound appreciation for life, a diminished fear of death, and a deep sense of connection to something larger than themselves. Whether interpreted as spiritual awakenings, neurological anomalies, or something in between, near-death experiences continue to spark debate and fuel our fascination with the nature of consciousness and the mysteries of what lies beyond this life. Section 3, Ancient Practices, Modern Questions, Meditation and the Mind. For thousands of years, meditation has held a revered place in numerous spiritual traditions, offering a path to inner peace, self-discovery, and a deeper connection to the divine. While Western science often viewed meditation through a skeptical lens, dismissing it as a purely subjective practice with little empirical basis, recent decades have witnessed a surge in scientific interest in the profound effects of meditation on the brain and body. Studies using brain imaging technology have revealed that long-term meditators exhibit significant changes in brain structure and function, particularly in areas associated with attention, emotional regulation, compassion, and self-awareness. These findings suggest that meditation is not simply about relaxation or stress reduction, but rather a powerful tool for reshaping the very neural pathways that underpin our thoughts, emotions, and behavior. From the perspective of consciousness studies, meditation offers a unique window into the nature of the mind. By cultivating a state of deep inner stillness, meditators can observe the ebb and flow of thoughts, emotions, and sensations with a clarity and detachment that is difficult to achieve in the hustle and bustle of daily life. This practice of mindful observation allows for a deeper understanding of the workings of consciousness, revealing the impermanent, ever-changing nature of our thoughts and experiences. Moreover, advanced meditators often report experiences that resonate with the non-material perspectives on consciousness found in many ancient traditions. These experiences can include a sense of interconnectedness with all things, a dissolution of the boundaries between self and other, and even glimpses of a realm of pure awareness that transcends the limitations of time and space. While these experiences are often difficult to describe in language, they point towards a dimension of consciousness that is vast, mysterious, and ripe for further exploration. Section 1, the Quantum Puzzle Box. For centuries, the Newtonian view of the universe, with its predictable laws of motion and clockwork precision, reigned supreme. It painted a picture of reality as a giant machine, its gears grinding away with predictable certainty. Consciousness within this framework was often relegated to a mere byproduct of the brain's complex machinery, an epiphenomenon with little influence on the material world. Then in the early 20th century, the world of physics was turned upside down by the advent of quantum mechanics. This revolutionary theory revealed a reality far stranger and more mysterious than anything classical physics could have predicted. At the subatomic level, the neat, predictable world of Newtonian mechanics dissolved into a realm of fuzzy probabilities, wave-particle duality, and an unsettling interconnectedness that seemed to defy common sense. Particles, it turned out, weren't always particles. They could also behave like waves, their properties existing in a superposition of states until the act of observation seemingly collapsed them into a definite form. The very act of observing, of measuring, seemed to influence the outcome of experiments, suggesting a deep connection between the observer and the observed. Entanglement, that spooky action at a distance, revealed that particles once linked could remain correlated across vast distances, their fates intertwined in ways that defied classical explanations. This strange, counterintuitive world of quantum mechanics challenged the very foundations of our understanding of reality. If the building blocks of the universe behaved in such bizarre and unpredictable ways, could it be that consciousness, too, operated according to a different set of rules than those governing the macroscopic world? Could the mysteries of the quantum realm hold the key to unlocking the secrets of our own minds? Section 2. Entangled Minds, a Symphony of Possibilities. The idea that consciousness might be inherently quantum mechanical is not new. As far back as the 1930s, physicists like Niels Bohr and Erwin Schrödinger, pioneers of quantum theory, speculated about the potential role of quantum phenomena in explaining the workings of the mind. However, these ideas remained largely speculative, lacking the empirical evidence and theoretical frameworks needed to gain widespread acceptance. In recent decades, however, the field of quantum biology has emerged, revealing that quantum effects are not confined to the esoteric realm of subatomic particles, but play a crucial role in a wide range of biological processes, from photosynthesis to bird navigation. This realization has breathed new life into the idea that quantum mechanics might also play a role in consciousness, perhaps even providing the missing link between the physical brain and the subjective experience of being. One of the most prominent proponents of the quantum mind theory is physicist Roger Penrose, who, along with anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff, proposed a model suggesting that consciousness arises from quantum computations occurring within microtubules, tiny structures found within neurons. According to their ORCH-OR, orchestrated objective reduction theory, these microtubules act as quantum computers, their delicate states collapsing into definite outcomes, orchestrating the firing of neurons and giving rise to our conscious experience. While the ORCH-OR theory remains controversial, it highlights the growing recognition that quantum phenomena might be essential for understanding the complexity and subtlety of consciousness. Other researchers are exploring the potential role of quantum entanglement in explaining the interconnectedness of conscious experience, suggesting that our minds may be linked in ways that transcend the limitations of space and time, much like entangled particles. The implications of a quantum mind are profound, challenging not only our understanding of ourselves but also our place in the cosmos. If consciousness is not merely a byproduct of the brain's activity, but rather a fundamental aspect of reality, woven into the very fabric of the universe, it suggests a deep interconnectedness between mind and matter, between the observer and the observed. Some physicists, like Menas Kafatos and Robert Jastrow, have even gone so far as to suggest that the universe itself might be fine-tuned for the emergence of consciousness. They point to the remarkable chain of coincidences that led to our existence, the precise values of fundamental constants, the improbable formation of stars and galaxies, the delicate balance of conditions necessary for life to arise as evidence that consciousness may be an inherent part of the cosmic blueprint. This anthropic principle, as it's known, remains a topic of debate among physicists and cosmologists. However, it highlights the profound philosophical implications of considering consciousness as a fundamental aspect of reality. If the universe is indeed fine-tuned for the emergence of beings capable of observing and appreciating its beauty and complexity, it suggests a purposefulness, a meaningfulness to our existence that transcends the purely materialist worldview. The quantum mind theory, while still in its infancy, offers a tantalizing glimpse into a reality far stranger and more wondrous than anything we could have imagined. It challenges us to expand our understanding of consciousness, to embrace the possibility that we are not isolated islands of awareness, but rather integral parts of a vast interconnected web of being, our minds linked to the very fabric of the cosmos in ways we're only beginning to explore. We began this exploration with a simple question: what is consciousness? We dove into the intricate machinery of the brain, marveling at its billions of neurons firing in concert, creating the symphony of our thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. Yet, amidst this intricate biological hardware, the essence of consciousness, the I that experiences the world, remained tantalizingly elusive. Like skilled mechanics, we peered under the hood of a high-performance engine, tracing wires, analyzing circuits, and mapping the flow of electrical impulses. We could identify the components responsible for specific functions: memory, language, sensory processing. But the source of the spark, the animating force that transformed this collection of parts into a living, breathing being, continued to elude our grasp. The hard problem of consciousness, that seemingly insurmountable chasm between the objective world of matter and the subjective realm of experience, challenged us to confront the limitations of a purely materialist worldview. Could it be that consciousness is more than just a product of our brains, more than the sum of our biological parts? We explored the moral dimensions of consciousness, that inner compass that guides us toward empathy, compassion, and a sense of justice, suggesting a connection to something beyond the purely self-serving drives of evolution. We delved into the dream world, that nightly realm where logic bends, reality melts away, and the impossible becomes not just possible but vividly real, hinting at a dimension of our being unbounded by the constraints of time and space.